Well, housekeeper, what should I do now?
Well, I don't know, boss. You've done everything.
What do you mean, everything?
You've reached the end, boss.
The end?
The end, boss.
Are you calling me boss, or are you...
Does it matter?
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, welcome one and all to another look at my personal opinions on a specific grouping of Monster Hunter monsters. Some of you guys seem to be surprised that my tier lists have shown bias in the past, and I have some information for you. Yes, they're biased, you are correct, because they are videos displaying my opinion. I'm not like statistically ranking the best monsters by 100 strict categories of differentiation. I just know which monsters I like more than others, and I know where the big gaps in between are. Thus, a tier list is born. Today, a tier list of the final bosses in the entire Monster Hunter series, the main series at least, based on both their design and their fight. For their fight specifically, I will judge the most recent version created. This will include both the offline and online final bosses of each main game of the series, though it is worth noting there are a few I have not actually fought, as they just haven't been in one of the Monster Hunter games that I've played. For those creatures, I'll be going almost entirely off my opinions of their design. It is just all for fun, after all. I've talked about each of these monsters in one way or another in the past, but I've never put them against each other quite in this way, so it gives me an excuse to talk about them again in a quick manner, while also putting them next to the newest creatures, just to show you guys where my head is at right now. Starting off with the very beginning then, Monoblos. This guy hasn't been around for a while, but I sort of wish that he was. At least swap him out once every generation with Diablos instead of just having Diablos all the time, you know? Could be fun. I do like him a lot as a creature, but he's not quite in the top rankings for me as far as final monsters go. As a result, the B tier is where I'm going to be placing this Uniceratops. Fatalis. It shouldn't surprise anyone that this monster has greatly risen in my opinion since his Iceborne rebirth. He is a very quintessential dragon, but especially in all of his modern goodness, he really is a perfect dragon. Simple, but simplicity done extremely well. As far as his fight, it has improved a great magnitude from the olden days, and as a result, as a whole, I'm going to be putting him in the A tier of monsters here. Lao Shenlong. Look, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I think he's sort of funny more than he is scary, the way he just sort of waddles around and stuff. It makes me feel like Lao just doesn't know what's going on. He's just a crazy old dragon running around trying to do stuff. Design-wise, he doesn't particularly inspire me. His main personality trait is big, though to be fair, as a tall person, I also have that problem. And the fight is, well, the walking incessantly forward with a rare attack. For me, at least in comparison to the monsters that we're looking at today, Lao Shenlong is going to be on the D tier. Sorry, long lizard lovers. Lunastra, I think I am a much greater fan of than most. Her design is absolutely gorgeous to me, even in comparison to Teostra, who already existed, and the idea of him being the sun and her being the moon, and her new fight having all of these crescent-shaped attacks, it just really feeds into this whole personality for her that I really enjoy. The fight itself, once you work out some ways to deal with her supernova, becomes quite manageable. But the main thing that I always loved about it was the fact that she added in her blue fire patches, which were a crazy mechanic to my tiny little brain at the time. Not that my tiny brain is bigger now, the mechanic is just a bit less crazy to it. The way that they expanded and chained her explosions, and even the fact that they blocked ranged attacks, I quite liked. It was really cool. All the things that I've said are pretty much positive, and yet she just doesn't quite reach the upper echelon, so I've paired her with another fiery beast in Fatalis in the A tier habitat. I do sort of like to imagine that each of these tiers becomes its own food chain at the end, and they all just sort of fight each other for supremacy. Fun times. Fun, murderous times. Crimson Fatalis. This one has a very similar design to regular Fatalis, though I do appreciate his twisted horn quite a bit. Unfortunately, his fight has not been updated to the modern era like his base counterpart has, and while it is more interesting than the old base Fatalis fight, it is still much closer to that bad memory than the good memories that I have of the new fight, so I do hold him in slightly lower regard. B tier shall be the home of this gentleman dragon. Tigrex. I like this wyvern quite a bit. I've talked about him in a couple of tier lists recently as well, as topics have simply had this slight overlap over him. I love his dinosaur and tiger mix. Some people have pointed out to me that Tigrex is still a mix of tiger and T-Rex, just in another language than English, such as Italian or Spanish, and that I should try pronouncing it Tigrex. And yeah, Okay, I think I'll be doing that from now on. Sounds about right to me. His fight is essentially just charging back and forth, a couple of slight variations on that, a couple of extra moves, but I consider him a fight that is fun because of the pace, more than because it is genuinely keeping it on your toes, making you guess what he's doing. Thus, our good friend here will be a B tier monster on this list for me. A Cantor, the master blaster of all that you're after. This volcano-inhabiting gladiatorial combat enthusiast of a monster is one hell of a creature. He's spiky as hell, which some people love, and I don't mind. His fight I quite enjoy, even the novelty of his beam essentially being a mechanic to force you to run to a certain part of the arena, but I must admit that I have a soft spot for monsters whose reason to live is more broad than just kill, 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 and, well, Cantor is real big on the whole searching for combat and murdering stuff thing. Still, he's an A tier monster for me, Mr. Cantor. Still, no one quite breaching the top zone quite yet. Yukanlos, the father of Dodogama, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I realize that I am factually wrong, but a large part of me chooses to believe that a Dodogama placed in an Arctic region and allowed to grow into old age might become a Yukanlos, or maybe Yukanlos just met a single mother Dodogama and they got along well and he's the father that way. I don't know. In any case, I love his shovel chin. It's glorious. I love his textured nature and his nearly shark-like motions that he has in his combat. He is slow, but he is big, so that slowness is also sort of welcome. Maybe it's the way that his beard looks like a beard from the Hercules Disney film, but I just can't help but want to trust this guy. Yukanlos is an S tier final monster for me. I don't know if that's a popular opinion, but it's my opinion. Suck it. Sadeas. This one is an absolute perfect creature design-wise to me. Of course, the game that added underwater combat to the series was always going to get a bit of a leg up, as all of the creative marine-based monsters that they had thought of in the past finally had a proper home. I do actually have to wonder how many monsters from this game had been in the designers' heads for almost years beforehand, just waiting for a proper watery experience to let them run free, swim free. Giant whale, love it. Giant beard, love it even more. Giant horns? I can dig it. What's his purpose in life? Just sort of existing, dude. The only reason that we need to go anywhere near him as hunters is because his horns have grown in too long and started to cause him great pain. So in an effort to shorten them, he bashes them against walls, which, you know, for a giant whale can cause a lot of damage. His fight has some good moments to it. It's not quite a snooze fest, but it's definitely not your average large monster fight either. Overwhelmingly, due to my love of his design specifically, Sadeas is going to be an S tier monster for me as well. After him, we visit Alatreon. His design as a sort of tormented, unstable beast I can dig quite a bit. The idea that he is more or less just looking for places to exist on his own, but just his general existence causes such unstable weather is very much pitiable and makes me feel for him. However, I stop feeling for him when I remember Eschaton Judgment, the mechanic in Iceborne that he had. The rest of his fight is incredible. I love the moment-to-moment combat, the individual attacks and patterns that he has in the game, but Eschaton Judgment essentially forcing elemental weapons felt very much like it was forcing the player's hand, which is something that I think is very dangerous to do in Monster Hunter combat design. On the whole, I'm going to hold this monster accountable in the A tier. Zinogre, the classic thunder puppy, I have some pretty positive feelings on. I really like his design quite a bit, especially the way that he works alongside the Fulkerbugs together, though his fight does have a bit of a forced downtime period within it that I'm not a massive fan of. In comparison to monsters on this list, Zinogre is going to be a B tier landing creature for me. Amatsu is one of the most interesting monsters in the series, a Leviathan using the same skeleton as the proper underwater monsters, moving around with the same underwater animations, but through the air, using a control of wind. This fight is intense, has a lot of cool moments, but feels like a proper monster engagement. And honestly, this one just overall, for me, is an S tier monster. I really appreciate it. Ivory Legiacrus, sorry Legiacruz fans, you might not like my stance. I like base Laggy a ton, but Ivory I honestly believe is just worse Legiacrus. What he gains is mostly just AoE lightning blasts that I don't think are fun, and he spends a lot of time on land instead of underwater, which is just less fitting for the monster that he is. He gets where he is mostly on my appreciation of the base Legiacrus riding under his subspecies, but he does still find his way up to the B tier on this list. Dire Morales then following after him. The final black dragon on this list, talking design again, I absolutely adore this creature. Part of it, to be honest, is the community theory that he is some sort of ancient Fatalis that has some sort of circumstantial evidence, so nothing to really bank on, but I love the idea of it. Regardless of that, he is a giant, essentially walking volcano, sorry Zora Magdaros, you weren't the first one, wading through the sea, killing everything that lives simply by passing by. His fight is a bit, to me, to be fair, it is hard to make a particularly large monster particularly engaging to the player, but Dire Morales in particular felt like a real slogfest. The aiming for the hot part was a nice uniqueness. For the most part, it felt like a boss fight more than a monster fight the majority of the time. That's just my honest opinion, which in some cases I can enjoy, but not so much in this one. On the whole, Dire Morales for me is going to go in the A tier, almost entirely on the prowess of his design. Shagaru Magala, he is a bright old boy. I'll admit people who have played Monster Hunter 4 and 4 Ultimate probably have a much deeper care and emotional connection to this monster than I do, as I have only fought him in Generations Ultimate, but I do still quite like how he comes to be, even if I still struggle a bit to understand the nature of his power. His fight is fun and engaging throughout, though it doesn't particularly blow my mind. A very, very solid A tier final monster in my opinion overall. Allmother. Allmother, I've never fought you. I wish I had. I've heard that it was interesting for a siege-type fight, but still, you know, a siege-type fight. I love your design, though. Essentially a giant world-eating snake. These types of giant snake creatures exist in various mythologies all over the world, and I adore every single one of them. I'm not normally a snake guy, but there's something about an absolutely massive snake, or just a snake-type monster that really sort of makes me happy. And though there are some creatures I have criticized in the past for being overly spiky, I feel like Allmother's spikes are the main focus of his design for a reason. The way they are shaped essentially allowing his movement and his destructive power to function the way that it does. To put it simply, I've never fought this monster in game, and yet he's on my short list of potential monsters that I would want to get a tattoo of in the future. He's on my S tier. I don't have any sort of a way to debate that. Sorry. Apex Oregios. I've never fought specifically the Apex version of this monster, though I am familiar with the concept, as well as the fact that he looked a fair bit cooler as an Apex 2. Still though, Oregios for me personally just didn't hit quite as hard as I guess he did for a lot of people. I struggle to explain it because I do like him. Genuinely, I like him. I just don't like him more than most of these other creatures. Thus, Apex Oregio is going to be in my B tier. Moving on then to Rusted Kushala Daora. Another one I haven't fought, though I do love the concept of. I quite like the design of regular Kushala, and the idea of Rusted just being him in real bad need of a shedding session is quite cool. However, I have not really enjoyed any Kushala type fight before the Rise version of base Kushala Daora, so I have to imagine that my feelings on the Rusted Kushala fight would be relatively in line with my thoughts on the old world Kushala fight in general. Not good. As a result, he's going to wind up in the B tier for me. Gogmazios. Gogmazios! You're basically a giant flying tar monster, and I'll preface this by saying he is straight up in my S tier.
Whoa! Gogmazios should be in S tier. He is the best Elder Dragon, literally the best Elder Dragon. All right, he is the last.
Josh.
What?
He's in my S tier.
Oh, he is in.
Yeah, he's made of tar.
He is in S tier. Look, I just.
Why would you assume that?
He's the largest flying monster, and he's bubbly tar and a Dragonator, and
I understand.
I know. I love him. Okay, he's my second favorite monster.
Can I continue the video now?
I'll go.
Gogmazios.
Gogmazios!
Yeah, he's sort of really, really awesome. Following him then is going to be Glavenus, who I like but don't quite necessarily love. I enjoy his Carnotaur base. His grinding his tail in the mouth thing is a little bit unique, and the heating up is fun, but the sword for a tail thing in general has definitely been done before, even by the Monster Hunter series itself. As a whole, for me, Glavenus is going to be a B tier monster for this list. Nakarkos, Cuttlefish, Lord of the Bone Sea, is just the cutest, edgy sea creature I've ever encountered. I do love the way that they reveal him to you in 2 steps, so you don't even have the realization that the creature itself is what it is the first time that you fight him, but given that I don't have story context for a lot of these, it feels unfair to include that in my judgment here. As a creature, he's very cute and also very deadly. His fight is fun, though his blue stuff debuff does cause me quite a bit of anxiety when I fight him. He is unfortunately a very much kill things and hoard their bones type of creature personality-wise, which holds him just off of my personal upper echelon, still respectably in the A tier on this list. Valstrax is just an incredible feat of design. Look, say what you will, rocket-powered Elder Dragon will always be a fantastic hook for a monster. Everything you need to get someone's attention is right there. He essentially runs like a fighter jet full of unstable dragon energy fuel. He can transform his wings to essentially fire the same energy as missiles, and he is the fastest recorded flying creature that we've got going around. He is pure awesome. His fight is intense, interesting, and unique, as it has a number of attacks and patterns that you just won't see anywhere else. It's just a lovely experience. As a whole, Valstrax is an S tier final monster, and I think he is quite deserving of that label too. Ahtal Ka is such an unbelievable example of the quirkiness of the Monster Hunter series. It has varying degrees that it goes to. Sometimes it's just balls to the walls crazy, and a praying mantis uses golden silk to control a mech made of debris from forts that it has destroyed in the past. Yeah, that shit gets heavy, and I adore it. It somehow manages to do the classic Monster Hunter thing of making something ridiculous almost believable, at least to those of us willing to accept a little bit of silly stuff, and the fight around it is incredible too. She whips out Dragonators, water wheels, girders, everything but the kitchen sink, and honestly only because she doesn't have one laying around to throw at you, but I'm certain she would if it was there. She's an S tier monster for me, no doubt about it. Zinogre, ooh, your design is the stuff of legends. I struggle to label something like this because Monster Hunter World was my first Monster Hunter game, Zeno my first final boss, and so the experience holds a certain weight in my mind. That said, I am capable of admitting it is almost entirely the spectacle of it that holds this creature up for me. The alien nature of it with the translucent skin is very cool. The idea that it's just hatched in this strange place with no idea of even how to control its own powers, and how it reflects on the fight is really cool. However, on repeat engagements, it's hard to deny that the fight is a little bit one-dimensional, at least, relative to a lot of Monster Hunter fights. As I said earlier, it can be hard to make big monsters also be fun monsters. As a whole, though, he's still a very good creature, so he's going into my B tier. Shara Ishvalda. Oh, this is a good one. This one should surprise no one. I don't think I've ever talked about this monster without it being an overwhelmingly positive section of whatever video I'm making. The fight still is a bit of a spectacle, not quite Valstrax and entertainment value just for the general fight-to-fight moments, for example. However, it is much more engaging than Zinogre. The design itself, starting off almost like a strange rock golem, was just absolutely stunning the first time. I had no idea what to think about what was going on, and then he reveals his true, absolutely frightening form, using vibrations in the air as a weapon itself rather than resorting to some sort of element. Oh, I really do love this monster. That's enough gushing though. S tier for Shara Ishvalda. Magnamullo, and in my opinion, wavers on this stinky boy pretty frequently. I like him a lot for a number of reasons. The parts of the fight where he glows with pink fire are definitely one of them, but I do think that the little extra spiky bits that he gets when mad are just the tiniest touch too far. Otherwise, especially now that I have a better understanding of Hellfire as a sort of gas produced from Magnamullo's decomposing victims, I really do appreciate him even more. As a whole, he's going to sit in my A tier. And then, finally rounding out the list, Allmother Narwa. God, I love the name of this creature even in itself. It really gives it that air of mystery. The creature itself is awesome. This upside down floating magnetism electricity dragon with added dragon-based wind powers from her fallen partner. Her design is sort of insane, and I can't deny enjoying it a lot too. As far as the fight, this one's just the coolest oversized monster fight that they've ever done. At least one of them, if not the best, just full stop. The only thing stopping it from being perfect for me is the whole, hey, you have to fight a Bushi with some siege mechanics before coming down here, part of the quest. Still though, it sits right near the top in my A tier, rounding out my list completely. Alright everyone, these have been my feelings about each and every final monster in the Monster Hunter main series games. Do you agree with my feelings, more or less at least? Which one do you disagree with the most? After all, I'm probably factually wrong in at least one of my opinions, if comments are to be believed. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.